Good morning. We have a raucous crowd this morning. Welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies, beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. Our services are recorded and available on YouTube channel during the midweek. Masks are now optional in worship, although we have the upper right-hand balcony that will remain masked, as well as that back space over there where Carol is. I invite you to please silence your cell phones so you are present with us for this next hour. And we welcome and celebrate the noises, movements, and mirth that little ones bring to our worship. For those of you who are first-time visitors, I invite you to make your way to the visitors table. On your way to coffee hour, please join us for coffee hour, which is right out this door, so we can greet you more appropriately. I have one fabulous announcement this morning.
I think this mic will be turned. Oh, there we go. My name is Karina, and I'm the Administration Finance Director of First Parish Brewster. I'm here today to acknowledge the hard work and success of our thrift store manager. Come on up, Celine. Yeah, I agree. Don't worry, there'll be more time for clapping and acknowledgement. Celine started with us in 2020, just a few weeks before everything, including our thrift store, shut down. Imagine. While we were all trying to find a new way of doing church online, Celine was making the best use of her hours by completely revamping the store and figuring out how to reopen while keeping everyone safe, including all our wonderful volunteers. It was not easy, but after 4 long months, the store reopened. And since then, Celine has continued to make improvements to the store, thanks to several endowment distributions. And of course, she could not have done any of this without the help of her dedicated volunteers. So if you're a thrift store volunteer, please stand up. Yes. Yes. Yeah, just what a wonderful team. Our thrift store income is currently about 17% of our annual budgeted income. And each year, Celine has increased this income beyond pre-pandemic numbers, despite not being able to return to pre-pandemic store hours. Okay? Let that sink in. Now, this last fiscal year that ended June 30th, the thrift store income reached an all-time high of $113,000. So just imagine what she could do if she had only, say, 3 more volunteers and could expand the store to the hours before the pandemic happened. Right? So I invite you to find Celine during our coffee hour and tell her how much her work has meant to you, the support that the thrift store income does for the work of the church, and please consider being one of the thrift store volunteers. So we're going to put this little crown. Yay! Y'all done. Thank you.
Can I just ask for a round of applause for thrift store emeritus, Karen White?
When I was in my first congregation in Rockport, Mass., I had a time in my life that I was super stressed, and it affected my health. So I kept getting stress pneumonia, or stress, what am I trying to say? I kept getting a strep infection, and then I'd get an antibiotic, and then I'd get it again, and then I'd get an antibiotic. So after about 4 times of doing that, I went to visit my new love. And while I was there, I started feeling like sick again, and I said to him, you know, I think tomorrow I'm going to have to go to an emergency clinic, like one of those walk-in clinics. And then I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and my whole side of my neck was swollen out to here. I had a red rash running down my chest, and I could not stand up. It felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. So we went to the emergency room, and while there, they stuck a camera down my nose. 10 minutes later, they came back, stuck another one down my nose, and it turns out I had a strep pneumonia infection that killed the puppeteer Jim Henson. That's what he died of. They told me they were going to bring me into the ER, and they pulled in now my husband Scott, and they said, we're not sure she's going to make it. She's got a 10-minute window on her life. You need to call her family. So my sister and brother-in-law were in medical school at the time. They came in like 12 hours later, and I went to surgery. I had a tracheotomy put in and surgery on my neck. And then I was in the OR, and both Scott and my sister Ingrid and Brian came to see me every day. I couldn't talk. I had this big tube in my mouth and was on a vent. And, you know, they would just talk to me and keep me calm and give me kisses on my forehead. I wasn't getting better after 3 or 4 days, so then they put chest tubes in both sides of my lungs to get rid of the fluid. On about the 5th night, I had what you would think is a panic attack. I felt like I couldn't breathe at all. And though something was breathing for me, but I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I thought I was going to die. And in the middle of the night, the nurse, she calls out, to the attending to say, I think this woman needs some Ativan. But there I was, right, lying up at the ceiling and feeling like this is it, I'm done. And then this calm came over me. And I thought, you know what? If this is the end, this is a hard story to tell. It's okay. Because I'm loved and I have been loved. And in my mind, that's all that I needed. That was enough. Here's the thing. That was the moment of my reckoning regarding belief. But it was more as well. It was like a marking of when I really became a humanist. Up until this time, my belief in humans as the agency for one's salvation and transformation was theory, was reason, was conjecture, perhaps even a little bit of a leap of faith. But it was there in the ICU, my humanism moved from an intellectual construct to a force that solidified itself deep inside of me. It became more than theory or a construct. It became part of me. It is me. Both intellect and heart woven into my understanding of the world. I tell this to you because today my sermon is on humanism and on my faith in the abiding power of love, between people, individually, in groups, and in community. And I think that's one of the reasons that we come to church, is that we know when we gather together, some kind of magic happens between us, not every week, but kind of often. More often than not, we can see each other truly and know we are bound to each other in a community that holds us and loves us. And that, friends, is indeed something to celebrate. Welcome to our celebration of life. It is really so fabulous to be with all of you today. Before we sing our first hymn, would you please rise and greet your neighbor? All right, could you join with me now in singing hymn number 1054 in your teal hymnal? Let this be a house of peace.
And so I'm gonna make this easy for you. This is a 4-page hymn, but guess what? You don't even have to turn the page, because I'm gonna teach you what to do on the last 2 pages, in case you haven't sung this hymn in a while. And we're gonna go into 2 groups. So we got this group over here on this side, and then that group over there. Your part, when you don't turn the page, is, let this be a house of peace. And you hold out the note. Ready? Go. Let this be a house of peace. And you do it again. Let this be a house of peace. So that's your part. You get to sing it twice. You over here are going to go, you're going to echo them. They're going to sing, let this be a house of, and you go, let this be a house of peace. Like that. Ready? Go. Let this be a house of peace. And you only get to sing it once, usually. But after we've sung 3 verses of this all, you get to sing it 4 times, 4 times. You get to echo it 4 times. So we're going to sing verses 1, 3, and 4. And in between the verses, you do this, this, this. There's that laughter that I love. I'm going to play it through one time.
this chalice in the honor of the history that holds and heal us, for the stories of heroism that inspire our own, for the loved ones long gone who helped us see our better selves. These memories do not live in the past. They carve the contours out of present. They are here today. Look, listen, let them in. May their light be our guide. Would you please join with me in our affirmation words? We believe in love.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
We believe in truth.
The quest for truth is its sacrament.
We believe in helping others.
And service is our prayer.
We believe in the sacredness of life.
To the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine.
Hello, I know what you're thinking. I'm not Twinks Hastings, your queen of lifespan education and entertainment. I'm Chuck Medansky. I'm going to tell you a story today. So, once upon a time, there was a beautiful, magical Unitarian forest. And in that forest, there was a wise storyteller. And she was pretty old now. And in her long life, she had learned a lot about what it is to be a human being. Because life can be beautiful, and it can be mysterious, and it can be good and fun, but it can also be hard and fearful and difficult. So the children would go to the forest and listen to her stories and learn her wise ways. So one day she said to the kids, let's say that it's raining out. And it's a cold, cold day. And what would you choose to do? Would you choose to stay inside? Or to go outside with no clothes on at all? Or would you go outside but with a raincoat and a rain hat and rain boots on? So if I asked you the same thing, what would you all say? Yeah, what would you say?
I would go outside with rain.
You'd go outside with raincoat on? Yeah. How about you?
I'd stay inside.
You'd stay inside, right. And how about you?
I would go outside with rain boots.
Go outside with rain boots. There's another one, yeah?
Stay inside.
And you'd stay inside, so it's a little evenly divided. Well, the wise one said, whatever your answer was, understand one thing, that the answer you gave was a choice. And choices are almost the most important thing that a human being can do. The kids wanted to know more, so she said, okay now, let's say that it's raining and cold, and it's a cold, hard rain outside, and you have a raincoat on, but someone comes along who doesn't have a raincoat. What do you choose? To stay completely dry yourself and warm in your raincoat? To give it to the other person and get soaked and cold yourself? Or maybe take it off and both huddle under it and you both stay pretty warm and dry together. So if I asked you guys, what would you say? Yeah? What would you say?
I don't really care about rain, so I'd give it to them.
You don't really care about rain, so you give it to them. Okay, great. Uh-huh.
I would be nice and give it to them.
You would be nice and give it to them, all right? Anybody else? Huh, okay, those are, yes? You'd keep it on. Okay, there you go. Okay, well, you all ask yourselves those questions, right? So again, the wise woman said, no matter what your answer, understand one thing. Your choice is a most important kind of food. What, the children said? How is making a choice a kind of food? Well, she said, think of it this way, okay? Pretend that inside of every human being, there's these two wolves. And some of the time they work together and they play together and they hunt together. But most often, they're in a great struggle with each other. One wolf, let's call them fabulous, okay? And they're good and kind and generous and loving. And the other wolf, let's call them fearful, is mean and selfish and violent and cruel. And those two wolves struggle inside of us. And so the children asked, which one wins? And the wise woman answered, the one that we feed. And the food that we feed them with is the choices that we make every day. So as the children light their lantern to illuminate their path downstairs, we pray that the choices they learn to make grow into great gardens of love and kindness to feed the wolves of this world. Let's sing them out now.
This is a time in our service where we offer our heartfelt gratitude to organizations in our community that help the least of these. This morning's split plate offering is with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which is a nonprofit organization advancing human rights and social justice around the world through grassroots collaborations. Its work is grounded in the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all people, centered in the voices of those most affected by injustice, and supported by the sale of fair trade products. Your offering will benefit the organization and the great work of First Parish. There are numerous ways to contribute. Please look in your order of service. You can also contribute by text. We will now take the offering mindfully and gratefully. the events of this week in Israel and the Gaza Strip, we have watched unspeakable pain and seemingly I can't even say the word right now, irreconcilable differences not only happen but grow bigger with every day. That is true not just outside of these walls, but even within. I am positive that among us, there's likely also that pain and division that is growing. Undoubtedly, there is certainly a time and place to sort all of this out and debate and discuss all of that. But today it seems important to just put all of that aside just for one moment and make space for all of us to acknowledge the innocent ones, the ones suffering on both sides. And so we light this candle for them. Sometimes words can tangle us up. They can tangle us up more and cause more pain. So there is a time to put the words down just for a little bit. I've asked Kaeza to lead our meditation. I ask all of you to turn inward in the spirit of prayer and meditation as we soak in this musical meditation. I have one reading this morning. It's from Bill Schultz. Bill used to be the president of the UUA. Then he was the executive director for Amnesty International. He also was the executive director for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. This is from his essay, Our Humanist Legacy. There's a lot of nonsense that passes for religion in this 21st century as it has in all the preceding centuries. Religious humanism is willing to call a charlatan a charlatan. And while reason is by no means the only vehicle of religious exploration, we abandon it altogether only at our own peril. Where would we, who cherish the natural world, be without religious humanism's insistence that the world is a seamless garment and that we humans are part of the weaving? When the Unitarian Universalist principles revere the interdependent web of all of existence of which we are a part, they hark back to that fundamental humanist point that human beings are a part of nature and have emerged as the result of a continuous process. Or consider religious humanism's courageous faith that the future of the world is in human hands, not those of an angry God or inexorable fate. Humanism beckons us to believe that we can make a difference to history. This is the source of my own passion for social justice. In fact, human rights themselves, as articulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, are grounded not in the callings of the divine or the imperatives of natural law, but in the common experience of human empathy transmogrified into a set of guidelines designed to affect a civilized world. Finally, what kind of people would Unitarian Universalists be without humanism's generous contention that the blessings of life are available to all, not just the chosen or the saved, and that they appear not in the miraculous or extraordinary, but in the simple dress of every day? Here ends this morning's reading. I have a snotty nose a little bit right now. I need to clean it. I'm sorry, I'm not very couth, am I? All right. I have a monster. My monster isn't a figment of my imagination or a hallucination or a pesky holdout from childhood I can't seem to shake. It is not a pet. No, my monster hangs out under my bed and pokes at me when I reread a paragraph because I don't get the argument immediately, or when I have to look up words like asymptotically or sophism or iniminical. It whispers, I told you you weren't so smart. My monster mocks me with serene laughter when I try to make it through a lecture on existentialism or postmodern pretty much anything. Its laughter gets haughty and sharp the more I try to articulate to a friend just what the heck the lecture was about. It was on something about something, I say. My monster is the life of the party when I am in a conversation with academics who are theologians or philosophers, especially who live in that space where hegemony and epistemology and eschatology show up in every other sentence. Ironically, my monster and I hold the same theological foundation, the humanism that Reverend Schultz spoke of in my reading. It serves as the ground of my being. But it turns out each of us, my monster and me, lean into different sides of our dear humanism. I toward the humanism of the heart, and my monster towards the humanism of the head. The reality is my monster and I have been going at it for a very long time. I fell in love with humanism in high school when I went to the Unitarian Meeting House in Madison, Wisconsin. The minister there had an MDiv and a PhD not a demon, but a PhD on top of that, who shared his intellectual humanism through a caring, kind of enlivened sense of being in the world. He was charming and witty and a beguiling man who had, I'm not kidding, maybe 5'6" with heels on his dress shoes. Surely came out of the pages of like Clement Clark Moore's 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. He could wink at you and make you feel, well, delighted to be alive, because he was delighted as well, just like St. Nick. See, the meeting house did not ask me for leaps of faith. Rather, it aligned me to my actions in accord with age-old truths of loving my neighbor as myself. It didn't ask me to believe in a God who seemingly was capricious and willy-nilly. It didn't ask me not to ask questions. Instead, it told me curiosity is the blessed gift of the holy, and that somewhere within and beside others, answers can and do arise. In the end, I had found home. My humanism is grounded in the idea that when the chips are down, I put my faith in human beings to pull me through. That it is humans who save and transform me over and over again. It is humans that have saved me from a selfish meism that can destroy my well-being and lead me to false idols. It is humans who have loved me so fiercely that I am brought back from despair and loneliness and isolation. They have cajoled me into my better self when at times I frankly don't want to bother with the effort. They have challenged me to aspire to possibilities I fear unattainable because they see something in me that I far too often can't see in myself. I know that humans can and do betray us. They can do awful things. But when invested in, when relational, they have brought me back to life more times than I can count. In fact, I did a test and I took 2 minutes and I wrote down all the people who have saved and transformed me, and I got to 27. Except I got slowed down because I have this friend that has a long Polish name with only like 3 vowels in it and a whole bunch of consonants, and I couldn't remember how to spell it, so I would have had more. The point is, in the end, in big and small ways, it's humans who have saved and transformed me. My humanism is rooted in loving humanity. I believe in people. I have faith that they can live out of their best selves, not with practice and in community like this. We can be mindful and participatory in enhancing the human conditions for ourselves and for others and for the needs of the planet and the world. But this is not my monster's humanism. My monster's humanism is in intellectual prowess. My monster likes the world of the mind and doesn't really get the world of the heart or the spirit or the soul or the hands or the feet. My monster has the mental acuity to ward off sloppy thinking or supernatural claims about the universe. Okay, I just gotta say this. My monster is the old guard, rational humanist who can take me down to nothing in about 10 seconds. Because indeed they have, and they can. And for years, my monster's humanism was what we offered in Unitarian Universalist congregations. It was mostly the purview of men, white men, who went to Ivy League schools mostly, and they had that under their belt, and they reveled in the joy of banter, debate, and being right. Here's the thing. In the last number of years, I've known that type of humanism to dwindle significantly. Now, within our UU congregations, there is a far greater understanding that we can hold head and heart together in our humanism, in our communities. Pretty much all of the churches I have ever served, in particular First Unitarian in Rochester, where my husband Scott and I were the senior ministers, we were a living, breathing example of humanism at its best, a humanism that was inclusive, that left room for theists to jump in and hold God and love God without having to become non-theists themselves. Our humanism was that embracing. At least I thought it was. Till a couple of years ago when I had this very weird exchange. That's when my monster came out to play again on the phone. Because First Unitarian was a large church, we were considered leaders in the denomination, and because we are predominantly humanists, though large bull humanists, and because I'm a chick, I was asked to be in a learning circle, okay, on the phone. On an online learning circle with 2 Harvard humanist chaplains, 2 old guard humanists with considerable funding abilities, another community minister who is female, 2 leaders within the American humanist movement, and 2 minister facilitators from the UUA. So on the phone, there are 6 men and 3 women. The purpose of our monthly call was to supposedly bring innovative leaders together to spark, and inspire and cross-pollinate each other. Such a lofty goal. In short, figure out possible future collaborations together, right? It was an awesome idea. So here's the thing. Though without really knowing it, and when I least expected it, my monster showed up on the phone in the bodies of some of those on the call. And what threw me even more is that monster had gotten a lot younger. It was the young guys who shut the female voices down. Men in their 30s. I basically got an intellectual browbeating. Not sure how else to explain that. On the call, I said that our mission at First Unitarian was to heal spiritual disconnection by listening to your deepest voice, being open to life's gifts, and serving needs greater than your own. We believe that evil is disconnection. Disconnection from self and others and the needs of the world. And I said, it's not about belief. I've said this to you guys, right? You could be an atheist, a theist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, Barnes and Nobleite. It really doesn't matter. If your beliefs are in service to connection, they are in. If they aren't, they are out. It's that simple. I said that on the phone. But my monster was on the phone. I got interrupted over and over again. I was told my language was too flowery, too poetic, too blah blah. I am very precise with the language of the mind, one of them said. One of the Harvard men said our mission of being open to life's gifts wasn't his aesthetic, I believe he called it. Humanism is about reason, the mind, not a language of reverence or spirituality. And I objected to that comment by saying that spirituality really has nothing to do with what you believe about believing in a God or not, but more to do with the state of consciousness. It's about being present in the here and now, right? Spirituality is about being mindful in your living and loving. Then one of them said, it's not about emotion. I want to get to something deeper, something more precise. He also said at one point, I don't believe theists and atheists can be together in one assembly. And I said, that's not true. Like, we're one of the largest churches in the denomination, and we hold this large bowl for everyone. I am a non-theist, and I'm the senior minister. Yes, you can. But before I could finish, I was interrupted. Then someone made a comment about how they aren't broken, and churches should stop talking about that, about brokenness or even disconnection. It makes them feel vulnerable and not welcome. It's too Christian. In the end, I lost my voice. I was silent. My monster was back in a big-ass testosterone way. I had to say that, I'm sorry. At the end of the call, one of the women said, as her takeaway, "There is something in here about feminism and humanism that I can't put my finger on, but it's important." My monster shut me up. Not only was my monster in the room, but my monster took over the room. So I've always chalked that up to a bad day, and I needed bad television and a glass of wine and the ability to let go of my anger and hurt. It took me a while to get there, of course, because when I had simmered down enough, really, a few things occurred to me. I realized this wasn't really about my internal struggle with a monster. I was still mad at the exclusionary, rationalist men, but it opened up. This monster isn't just my monster. It's our denomination's monster. At our worst, it can still plague us. Our movement is hungering to bring the heart in alignment with the head, but every time we get like this close to it, inches away from alignment, we get belittled by the head, convinced we are going to abandon rationalism. Our head says, stop, no, oh my God, stop. And there's this little like backlash, this little panic attack that the heart will overwhelm the head, that it will usurp reason and rational thought. But you know what? It can't. For the very reasons that Bill Schultz pointed out in the reading. If we bring the heart in true alignment, we are still going to believe that the world is a seamless garment and we humans are part of the weaving. If we bring the heart in true alignment, we are still going to know that human beings are part of nature and have emerged as a result of a continuous process of evolution. If we bring the heart in alignment, we still have faith that the future of the earth is in human hands, not those of an angry God or an inexorable fate. If we bring the heart in true alignment, we are still going to believe that the blessings of life are available to all, not a chosen few or those who are saved. Friends, we are so close. But I realize something. I think both sides feel vulnerable to the other. Both sides feel like they will be discounted or forgotten or usurped or belittled. But you know, I'm pretty convinced that we can do both. We are, however, going to have to open up our understanding of humanism to a more pluralistic, kind of contemporary, more embodied experience. Because in the end, my humanism doesn't look like the humanism of the 1950s, the one that we lift up, that we are proud of from our heritage. But friends, this is a living tradition. How cool is that? A growing, evolving tradition. We have to all agree, people come to church vulnerable. They just do. I mean, come here, raise your hand if you're not vulnerable. And I'm going to wrestle you down to the ground if you open your hand up. I mean, we have to agree that's a given, right? And then put that in our humanism. Because here's what my humanism looks like. My humanism, non-theism, is rooted in deeds, not creeds. You can have the best thoughts in the world, the most reasoned thoughts in the world, but studies show, science has shown, it is actually your behavior that influences your reason rather than the other way around. Science has proved that. So if your intellectualism doesn't influence your living and loving, you're doing good without God, what use is it? My humanism, atheism, is rooted in the idea that as a humanist, as Unitarian Universalists, we are part of a living tradition. We often say it is up to each of us to decide for ourselves what comes next. Yet often that isn't a very satisfying answer for people, right? Like after you die. But I actually think we have an answer. I talked about this summer. It was one of the first sermons that I did for all of you. The answer for what is comforting and what supports us at death is science, actually. It is thermodynamics, it is physics, it is biology, it is evolution. We are always still connected as we have always been. I got a tattoo on my arm after my dad died to remind me I've got today to live. But it also reminds me I am connected. It says, from stardust I arrived, to stardust I shall return. It reminds me that I have today to live. That's all I know. That is science that keeps me grounded and somewhat less afraid of death. And you gotta love that we are all connected, that the molecules that we breathe in every day, those molecules we breathe in include argon, which were shared with the Buddha and Jesus and Eve in the garden. I'm sure there was some garden with Eve in it. Science is our answer to soften the blow of annihilation and the abyss. My non-theism and humanism is joyful. Our worship is a celebration of life. The neuroscience supports the notion that there is no such thing as pure reason. It actually is, again, the other way around. It is our emotion that influences our reason. I know that sounds odd, but it's true. Further, what is life but a ride of emotions, right? Without every transition from birth to death and joy and sorrow. My dear monster, when people die, when people you adore and admire die, your intellect, frankly, doesn't help worth squat. When your child is born with a birth defect, or your sister gets hit by a truck and becomes a quadriplegic at 25, it is not your intellect that will help you through that. When two countries are arguing with one another and they need to find that place of connection in order to stop going to war, some of it is reason, but I guarantee you some of it is knowing they will have sons and daughters die just like their own. It is emotion. My humor is rooted in laughter and is rooted in humility. My humanism is. It is rooted in the idea that the human condition really can be quite funny, especially when we can laugh at ourselves and we can open up the experience together of being human. Humor actually connects us. Facts, not so much. Precision, not so much. Avoiding emotion, not so much. My non-theism and humanism is rooted in the cracked pot. What is the fear, really, of being broken? We're all broken. I mean, I'm sorry, but we are. We are not perfect. And what is that saying about any of us that we don't want to or can't look at our own brokenness? It's not as scary as we think, especially when we are all doing it together. And yes, we should talk about brokenness because people are in pain about it. They think they should be all things to all people, that they can't fail, that they have to keep it like a stiff upper lip, that they can't let anyone see how fragile they feel or are. Because if they do, they might not know how to keep going on. They have lost their job or their wife or their children or their marriage or their dreams or their well-being or their health or their mental health or their hope or their compass for what is good and right. They've comprised their values, their beliefs, their ideals to fit in, they have compromised all of those to what it is that they feel will, like make them feel like they made it. People are insecure, lonely, hurting, and lost. Yes, we are broken. But my humanism says to you, so what? We're all really in this all together. That together we can be less lonely, less afraid, less disconnected. Together in the company and love of one another, we can be made whole. This is a soft way to end, but hopefully the most telling of my humanism. The heart and head need to make room for the whole body, your body. So I want you to listen to these words written by my past director of religious education, Sheila Shu. This is an excerpt from a blessing that she wrote. Your curiosity began as lightning across the sky. Your very nerves and every thought, every signal, the descendant of explosions and cosmic firings. Your insight and movement, ancient energies that acted long before your smiling. You are the very stuff of stars. You are the dust left behind. You are a solar event. You are the keepers of time. Your sisters hold their place and shine the sky above you, and you, no less, have such light inside you to offer the world. Can you see that you're a child of the universe? And that is why you know the earth is turning and dawn is coming. The darkness you have known now and forever behind you gives way to the light. Friends, we are almost there. We are so close. May we lay down our vulnerabilities, the musings of our heads alongside the longings of our heart, and finally stop using them as swords against each other. Together, may our heart and head come into alignment in service of our faith and to each other. May it be so. Amen.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join on our closing song, which is on your in your insert, Swimming to the Other Side.
hands for the closing words. Look at that, the balcony's already set. Whatever we can do, or dream we can do, let us begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. May we ever be bold in our living and in our loving. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Amen.